Okay, so let's pretend like we're starting then. All right, so today we're going to review another movie, the Star Wars sequel movie, Attack of the Clones. Uh, and this one is like I said, the second one in the prequel line. I said sequel; it's prequel. We've got several news clips we're going to look at. We're going to learn a bunch of stuff about lightsabers and how to bleed Kyber crystals, and we're going to do a pretty good review on the trailer that came out. Let's hope. So let's go ahead and get started then. Scott, what do you think?
All right.
Okay,
Woohoo.
so we're gonna start with the news. It's time for the news, and we're gonna do this trailer first. So I'm gonna play it. We'll just watch it all the way through the first time, and then
Mhm.
we'll go back and just kind of pause and talk about it as we go through. Okay.
Okay.
They're coming. Stay hidden, or we will not survive.
Leave us alone.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father? You still want Kenobi. He's gone.
Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. I want every lowlife and bounty hunter to squeeze him. You can't run, Obi-Wan! You can't escape him!
All right. Oh, stop that. All right. So yeah, there was a lot in there, wasn't there?
Mhm.
Like you said, we got to see more Inquisitors and stuff. Let's go ahead and we'll play, and I'll pause as we go through here. So those are supposed to be the ships of the Inquisitors, just so you know.
They all three travel together.
Yeah. So this one here, there's an Inquisitor there in the middle, if you can see that,
Hmm.
with the ring on the back. That's
Yeah.
the blade that spins. And I'm under the understanding that this scene is on a different planet than Tatooine.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like the casino thing. The
yeah, close to there. Yeah, it's a different planet, and I don't remember off the top of my head what
this
the
is
planet
probably
was.
this. You think that's green screen, and they filmed it in Hong Kong?
Um, I mean it's probably most of green screen, or they could have built a set like it. You know, like they had like maybe a set somewhere that was the Vegas Strip or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, all this language is in that made up Star Wars language. All these letters and stuff are those. Because you can see on here different words and stuff, and they're all that Aberish language.
They're coming.
See, and there's your scene with all three of them. A ship behind them. This is definitely on Tatooine. This is all the sand and the buildings and stuff looks like Tatooine. So there's the guy with the dome helmet, the new girl Riva or whatever her name is, and this is the grand guy in the middle.
The grand guy, the one that has a circle saber, or is it the guy with the dome,
Um,
or both?
I think at one point they both had them, but I don't know if we'll see that in this show. The guy with his dome is the one that in the show is we've seen with, or in these trailers we've seen with the circle saber that spins.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Grand Inquisitor is supposed to have one too, but um, I don't know if we've ever seen him with a lightsaber turned on in these trailers. We've only seen him talking, you know.
Yeah. He's all
Stay
pissy.
So
Yeah,
there's
there's
your,
Dope.
and this guy in the background is Owen Lars.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Or we will not survive.
Just looking, this is the thing, and there's Luke on top of the building there. And that's got to be Baru and Owen outside there, because that's the only
Mhm.
people that.
Leave us alone.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father?
Yeah. I thought that was
Ooh.
pretty funny.
Ooh! Ow! Jab!
Yeah.
Jab!
Look at
Jab!
Look at his face. He's like, yeah, I know. I did a bad job, didn't I? He's feeling guilty about it.
Mhm.
And I think that's a lot of what we're going to see in the series. We're going to see a lot of him being guilty about, Anakin turning, and
Mhm.
of course the Clone Wars. They lost the Clone Wars.
You still want Kenobi.
See, now this is in the Inquisitor's building, but there's another one there. This one right here next to the black girl is an Inquisitor too, and we haven't seen that one before. You see her? She's right. See, on the right side is a Imperial uniform, and on the left side is
Yeah.
another girl.
Yeah.
We got Reva, this other girl, the guy with the dome,
Mhm.
and then two Imperials that are close to us, with their
Yeah.
backs to us, I guess.
Yeah.
She's new. I don't know who she is.
He's gone.
There they are being dispatched.
Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. I want every lowlife.
And this is where they upload him as to the help wanted net.
Mhm.
So all the troopers and everybody knows who he is. This is his
The help
profile.
wanted.
Bounty hunter.
Yeah. Whatever they call that. I don't know.
Lincoln. You mean the digital post office wall?
Yeah. So, all right. So,
And bounty hunter. To squeeze him.
so there's a couple things there. I want to go back.
And bounty hunter.
So that guy you saw there just for a second, he
Mhm.
had green. He had green on him. So he has like
Yeah.
a green eyeball thing. So that's not an Inquisitor. Let's see if we can get back. Yeah. See, there it is.
Yeah.
It's got something green. So that's not an Inquisitor that like that. That's one of the bounty hunters they were talking about.
Bounty hunter. To squeeze him.
And this guy's got horns on his head, all over his head.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a bounty hunter of some sort, right? See, look at the horns on his head right there. It's not Maul, because it could, Maul could be around at this time, but it's not him. I want to go back to that a second. Okay, so it's just that girl there with the lightsaber. There's nobody else. No more Inquisitors. So this is probably on a ship.
You can't run, Obi-Wan!
Oh yeah, they were making a big deal about that too online.
What? You can't run Obi-Wan?
No, he's got a gun. He's not using a lightsaber. He's got a gun.
Oh, well, he doesn't want to be found out.
Yeah.
What?
Remember in the movies, he said that they're uncivilized. What
Yeah.
guns are uncivilized, like the lightsaber is.
Lightsabers
There's that-
honorable.
Yeah, there's that robot that we keep talking about. And I think he's a security type of robot. This guy.
Mhm.
That's a pretty. Still fuzzy, but that's clear enough that we can recognize the face and stuff. So this is supposed to be a totally different droid that we've never seen.
Mhm.
So it's not. Who's that? So this is supposed to be a kind of droid too. It's like a search kind of droid thing, a little handheld thing.
Hmm.
Who is this guy? Who does that look like?
It's Spock.
No. I don't recognize that person's face.
It's Spock. Look at the nose.
No, it's not. He doesn't have pointy ears. It's not Spock. Silly.
You can't escape him!
And I think if you look at his face there, it's like he senses something. He recognizes something. I feel something.
He's also still all stressed out.
Yeah, but I think he's like, right after
Mm-hmm.
this thing is activated, which lets Vader breathe easy. He's like, oh, that's something I haven't felt in the Force for a while. Or I don't know. All right. Yeah, that's probably the moment he realizes that Anakin's not dead, is when he gets that look on his face there. He's like, what?
What?
So let's stop presenting. All right, so we're back to normalness. Okay, so that's the trailer. Obviously, it gets us more and more excited for the show, right? Did you notice anything in there that you wanted to bring up or talk about?
I thought I saw a trailer. I don't know. You sent it to me or somewhere that Darth Vader standing over some lady and said, "You let him go," or something like that. Looks like he's going to kill it.
I didn't send that to you. I haven't seen that one.
It seems like there's shit coming out left and right now.
Yeah, there's stuff coming out, and
I think that week's going to be stupid crazy.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the convention at the same time, so we're going to get all kinds of stuff from all the different other shows too. So right, so the next thing I've got is it actually comes from the Wayback Machine, the Internet Wayback Machine. It's a archived article that used to be on the Wikipedia page, the Star Wars Wiki page. And this article is about lightsabers, and where they came from, and so on and so on. And it's a pretty in-depth article too, Scott. Like we looked at last week, it's probably got 6 or 8 pages as well, because it talks about in the beginning, they basically had to have the lightsaber plugged into a battery all the time until they were ready to use it because it would drain so quickly.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's start here at the top. According to earliest lightsabers were crude devices that utilize experimental frozen blaster technology to create a energy beam of fixed length. So it used something to freeze the blaster so it wouldn't, project out or whatever. Force Saber was a precursor and created by Rakata, which would eventually evolve into a lightsaber. Users were able to channel the dark side of the Force through the black laboratory-grown crystals, which would create a glowing energy blade. So you have to remember, I didn't really say it here at the beginning, but the Sith are the original ones that created the lightsaber.
Okay.
That's why it talks about dark stuff right away, because they created it. First lightsabers came into being before the Jedi Order. Ritual learning of freeze laser beam, blah, blah, blah. First blade built on Tython prior to the Force Wars. There was a Jedi that was known as the Weapon Master.
Oh, okay.
And he was an integral part in creating the weapons for they used that weapon that he created for almost a millennia, which 1,000 years.
Wow.
By the time blah 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 15,000 before the Death Star explodes, Jedi's find more research, and they develop a method to generate the focus beam without using the frozen blaster method. Controlled energy circuit, first portable high energy blade. They were very unstable and inefficient, guzzling energy from a mounted belt power supply, like I was just saying just a moment ago.
Wow.
And they could only use for a brief duration before they overheated, and the blade would stop. They were mostly ceremonial objects, so they used them during ceremonies and such. They didn't use them for fighting at the time. They were seldomly worn, and then they're very unstable, meaning they didn't stay up very long. And the Dark Sith Lords of the Sith Empire were ultimately responsible for the achievements in lightsabers, replacing the belt-mounted power pack with a power cell within the hilt of the blade. So, that part they hold on to has some sort of battery pack in it. And there was a internal semiconductor introduced that transferred energy and kind of fixed the negative loop problem that was causing them to only last for a while and not use as much energy. And that solved the power supply problem. Dark Jedi welded the lightsabers for several years. The non-dark Jedis, or Jedi, did not use the weapon still. It was mostly used only by the dark Sith Empire groups, and they also pioneered a technique to make synthetic crystals. So that they could produce them easily without having to go go through that ritual of finding the crystal and stuff like that the Jedi still do. So after many advancements in such to make it more stable and more powerful and so on, the Jedi found the weapon interesting. And the Jedi themselves, the Sith were always out for war. I always kind of think about, you talk about Star Trek, Scott. I always think about the Sith as, the Klingons or something like that. In Star Trek, they were always, they were honored to be in battle. They were always looking for a battle so they could, up their honor, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the Jedi were peacekeepers. They tried to avoid battle if possible. But they found it, with interactions with different groups in the Sith, they needed something to defend themselves. So that version of the weapon was called a proto saber. And at the end of the first Sith War is when the Jedi fully adopted the lightsaber. And they did some refinements to it, blah blah blah. And then of course, we have, this is way back, like I said, 15,000 years before the Death Star was even created, right? So during this period, we have several different wars between the Jedi and the Sith, and so on and so forth. And then there's a Jedi Civil War that happens also.
Wow.
And of course, then there's regular wars like the Galactic War and such. And it talks a lot in here about how the Sith were behind quite a few of the wars.
Yeah.
So here I've got a list of lightsaber resistant materials that either you can't cut through them as well, or you can't cut through them at all. And one of it says Cordis, which is a very rare, expensive metal. It says Cordis has the ability to momentarily short out a lightsaber. So you hit the Cordis and your lightsaber stops working. But eventually it'll come back up. There is a Frick, which withstands the blade, but it doesn't short it out. So it's kind of like, we're going to talk about here further down the armor that the Mandalorians use. It's resistant as well. Dark swords. Yeah, so there's also a dark saber version that the Sith had called a dark sword, and it would also temporarily deactivate a lightsaber on contact. So if you'd fight them with one of these swords and you hit each other, it would stop.
Oh.
There's a cloth called armor weave, which gives some resistance, although the protection is limited. Sith alchemy, what's this say? Augmented metals, seemingly unstoppable to lightsabers. So they lightsabers can't get through them. And then, of course, like you said, like we talked about, Mandalorian iron is what they call it. But we know it's called Beskar,
Yeah, that's it.
They call it Beskar, and that's what it's called in the Mandalorian language, is Beskar, but it's generally called Mandalorian iron. And there's force weapons. You had they had some sort of like shield kind of force weapon.
Yeah.
That would work. And it says all lightsabers would short out if submerged in water. So in rain, a lightsaber would steam up but not short out. But
I was going to say, I've seen lightsaber work in rain.
If it was submerged in water, it would
Leo.
It would eventually short out. And they did also create a version of a lightsaber that was somewhat waterproof, so it wouldn't short out. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't very many of those. It says some Jedi, specifically the aquatic species, designed special lightsabers that could activate underwater. And there were certain animals. There was like an animal called a lava dragon that possessed natural armor that would reflect the blade. And We talked about the armor. Standard lightsabers consist of a straight hilt, approximately 20 to 30 centimeters long. Each handle and the hilt is individually designed, self-fabricated, and customized to suit the person's personality and stuff. Double-bladed blades are usually associated with Sith. They were also it would also increase the length of the hilt or the handle, because technically you had to have enough to support two sabers, right?
Yeah.
The first recorded use of a weapon was by a Sith Lord, Exgar Kun, which I've never heard of that guy. He's the first one to modify a lightsaber to make it go together so they have two. Curved hilt lightsabers, long-handled lightsaber pikes. These are different types of lightsabers, it sounds like. Yeah, and there's a different types too. There's a training lightsaber, which doesn't have the strength of a regular lightsaber, so they don't hurt themselves while they're training. And then there's a dual phase lightsaber, which has a longer length than a regular lightsaber. The blade part. Underwater, dark saber is one of them. Also, we know about the dark saber, and that's not a traditional lightsaber either, because it's called the dark saber because most of the blade is black, right? And we just see a white part along the one edge, and that is supposed to be fairly unique. Not very many of blades of that type have ever been used. So yeah, and there's a lot more in here. It talks about colors and different fighting styles and such like that. I'm not going to really get into that, but this is a really good article that you might find interesting. It is kind of long, but I want to get into the second one, and this second one is also came from Wikipedia. This is a current article on the Wikipedia, and it's about bleeding crystals, Kyber crystals. And the first thing it says is bleeding was the process that a dark side user used the dark side of the Force to bend the Kyber crystal to their will, turning it red. It was possible for some light-sided users to purify corrupt crystals, which would bring them back to the light side and change their color. So the dark side can corrupt the crystal and make it bleed, and the light side can reverse that if they need to. Bleeding was accomplished by pouring rage, hate, and fear and pain into the Kyber crystal, which means the dark side of the Force, until the crystal changed, resulting in a crimson-bladed lightsaber. It's associated almost exclusively with the dark side or Sith. Kyber crystals in general were always aligned with the light side of the Force, so that's why they had to do this bleeding to convert it to the dark side, because they would, by default, they only work for light-sided people, or work correctly. And here is when it says, when Darth Vader first attempted to bleed a green crystal from Master Karif's lightsaber, he experienced intense visions from the light side of the Force, urging him to return to the light side. and the procedure damaged the crystal. And it so it talks about how like how Kylo Ren's lightsaber had the two things coming out the side. It's the same thing that we're talking about here. So that crystal was damaged, and it had extra feedback, which they needed to have these side things to vent the extra feedback.
Okay.
So the saber was stable again. That's why Kylo had his. He had trouble, bleeding it fully, I guess, so it didn't go all the way. Let's see. They were also able, like I said, able to take a crystal and bleed it. Not bleed it, but convert it to the light side too. Shortly after the formation of the Galactic Empire is when Darth Sidious explained the bleeding process to Darth Vader. Since he lost his weapon on Mustafar when he got his legs and everything cut off. Palpatine showed him how to bleed the saber. So that's talks about that. Inquisitors, they have an Inquisitor's blade, and many of the Sith, they get their lightsabers by killing a Jedi, and then that's when they take the blade and bleed the crystals.
Okay.
And that's so what happened with the Inquisitors is Darth Vader would bleed the crystals and then give the lightsaber to the Inquisitors. So that's how that's how the Inquisitors got lightsabers, even though they weren't, Jedi or Sith Lords or anything like that. I'm reading here. Reading. Tano. New Republic. Yeah, so that's a pretty short article, but it kind of describes, how they bleed them, and that's what I wanted to kind of go over is, they do some process where they're holding the crystal and they're kind of, forcing all of their hate and
anger into it.
Yeah, and that turns it a red color, which is why we get most Sith have red blades. I think every single Sith that we've seen so far has got a red blade of some sort, right?
Yeah.
Kylo Ren, all of them seem to have them.
Anakin had plenty of anger and hate.
Yeah, he had more than most people, didn't he?
So
so that's the news. We're out of the news. We need you to do a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Danger.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
We're getting to talk about a movie that you might have not seen, which I highly
doubt it.
Yeah, that's it. So we're going to talk about the Star Wars prequel movie, Attack of the Clones. This is the second movie in the prequel trilogy. You think of them as the prequels, the originals, and then the sequels. They were all trilogies. So Attack of the Clones was released on May 16th, 2002. Total running time was 142 minutes. The budget was 120,000 or 20 million. Sorry, 20,000, which is a little bit more than what they accounted for the movie before it. And this takes place 22 years before New Hope, or the Death Star exploding situation. 2002, directed by George Lucas, of course, and Jonathan Hales. So he helped direct it. The film is set 10 years after the Battle of Naboo, which is the one we saw, with the Jar Jar and his group. So it's basically 10 years after the first one. Renegade Jedi Master Dooku has gotten thousands of systems to join the Republic, is what they're calling it. There's an assassination attempt on Padme Aldama. And this is this is just starting when it's starting out. So it's at the beginning, we know that they get assigned to guard her and protect her, and so on. Attack of the Clones was the first movie to film, the first Star Wars movie to film directly in high definition, 24 frames a second. The film was a financial success with grossing over $600 million worldwide. So, they 600 times the amount that they spent on the budget. However, for the first time, a Star Wars film did not earn the highest box office for that year. Attack of the Clones ended up being fourth behind Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, and Harry Potter, The Chamber of Secrets, and Spider-Man. So those three were ahead of Star Wars that year, 2002. So that's basically the information about it. If we get into the episode here, we have an opening crawl that says the Unrest in the Galactic Senate. There's several thousand solar systems have declared intentions to leave the Republic and join the separatist movement under the leadership of Count Dooku. He has made it difficult for a limited number of Jedi to maintain the peace and order in the galaxy. Senator Amidala, the former Queen of Naboo, is returned to the Senate to vote on a critical issue, creating an army of the Republic to assist the overwhelmed Jedi. Okay, so that's the beginning of that, and Sith Lord Darth Tyrannus is actually is Count Dooku's Sith name. Darth Tyrannus. Let's see. So it starts out, and the Padme arrives on Coruscant. She narrowly escapes an assassination attempt.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you noticed when they landed. So they had the big ship that you talk about with the big wings. They landed, and we see what it looks like, the senator coming out the back of the ship, and it explodes, right?
Yeah.
But if you paid attention closely, you would notice that one of
It's
the guard ships that landed along with them, she was actually flying the smaller ship. If you noticed that. So as soon as the explosion happens, she gets all, weepy and goes up there and talks to Corday before she dies. Oh my gosh, Corday. And this causes a thing where the Jedi talk about it to Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, and he suggests that the Jedi help prevent another assassination attempt, and he suggests that someone she knows to do that, and that would be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan.
And of course, that means Anakin is comes along for the ride. Yeah. So, we have a scene where they meet each other again. Oh, Annie, is that you? Oh, you've
Oh,
grown up so
I like
much.
I like the elevator scene. What are you sweating for?
Yeah, what are you sweating for?
What are you sweating for?
It's been 10 years. That's why. Which is weird. So that I kind of thought that Anakin, when he was doing the pod racing, he was like, I don't know, 7 or 8, maybe. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah,
Younger than
that's
that.
right. So now
So
he's
he's like
18.
18 years old now. So he's
Yeah.
18, and we know that Padme was already in her teens when they first met. At that time, she was like maybe 14.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 years. So she's 24, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he's 18 and she's 24. So she's the older woman.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that.
Cougar.
Yeah, the cougar. All right, so they protect her. We see a scene where they're talking in the suite that Padme's in. Blah blah blah. They're talking about this and that and how Anakin's still thinking about his mother all the time and whatever. And we see a scene with Jango Fett comes down and talks to an assassin, Zam Welles. And he scolds her for messing up the first time, which is the the explosion on the ship, and they talk about how that was a decoy.
What was? Hold on. When they landed, this might be going backwards a little bit. Was that a shot? Was that a rifle shot from Jango Fett? Is that what we're assuming?
When
the
the
ship
ship
blew up.
No, that was some sort of bomb or something.
So
It was a pretty big explosion, so it could have been a
Yeah,
rocket
so-
launcher type of
so-
thing. But
I'm of course I've watched it like 2 or 3 times. So
Yeah.
was it the guard that came and got her and then walked her down the thing and he blew it up, or
I don't.
why
It could have
haven't
been.
they, why
It could have
haven't
been.
they why haven't they set forth out and said who did it or how it actually happened?
It could have been a bomb that was had a timer on it too. We don't know. So we don't know any of that stuff. We never find out. And I agree. I don't know why we
Why
don't
don't
actually
we
find
know?
out.
Yeah.
We know that this Zam Wellsell, who Django's talking to, set that up in the first place. And it doesn't really, in the movie or in this description, it doesn't really talk about what that was that blew up. If it could have been, like you said, it could have been a rocket launcher or some sort, maybe. I don't know. I didn't really see anything launch though, so I think it was mostly a bomb of some sort. So we see we see them talking, and he's scolding her for that, and then he says you can't fail this time, and he gives her a tube with some big worms in it, right? And he says, be careful with these things. They're very, very poisonous.
Yep.
Make sure you know what you're doing. And let's see. And they then we see Zam later on loading the tube into some sort of flying droid craft or something.
Mhm.
And this thing goes up to the window and does something on the window and then cuts a hole in it and inserts the open tube, and the little slimy things crawl out there and start to, and we see R2 doesn't even notice them either. He notices a noise but can't detect anything. So that's kind of weird too. I mean, maybe they don't have some sort of heat signature or whatever, but
Well, they stopped too.
yeah, they do stop. So maybe R2 is just detecting motion or whatever.
Yeah.
So they climb up there on the bed and everything, and then we see Obi-Wan and Anakin talking, and they both sense something and run into the room, and Anakin, of course, slices the worms up and then eats eats sushi out of him with it after he.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Sushi. That's a good one.
Yeah. And this is where we see Obi-Wan sees the little droid at the window still, and he jumps through the window,
Through the hole.
through the hole, breaks the glass, and
Yeah.
grabs onto the little thing. And it starts to escape.
Yeah.
And they pursue. He's flying on this thing for a while. Anakin finally gets himself together and tells Padme she'll be okay with R2, and he goes and robs a craft somewhere.
He doesn't say that. He says, "You stay here."
Yeah. You should be here.
Good
Do what
talk.
I say.
Dude,
Do what I
good
say.
talk.
Exactly. Yeah. So he gets on a ship that he stole and starts to chase Obi-Wan around, and Obi-Wan finally jumps onto the whatever speeder that they're on.
Yeah.
And they catch up with this Zam person that they saw escape also. And we get a couple of things where Obi-Wan is complaining about his Anakin's driving, and and then we see Anakin finally stops the ship and jumps over the edge and basically lands
I
on
hate
top
when
of
he does that.
her ship.
Yeah, I hate when he does that.
Yeah, I hate that when he does that.
Yeah. Like, who's he talking to?
Exactly. And they chase into a bar. Anakin fights her on the ship, and it gets disabled and it has to crash land. She runs into a bar.
He loses his lightsaber, and Obi-Wan has to catch it out of midair again.
He does, and he tells him right away. He says, "Pay more attention to this thing. Don't lose it again. This is your life." And so on. And he describes to Obi-Wan, he describes this Zam character, and he says it's a she, because Obi-Wan thinks it's a he, so he says it's a she, and he says it's a changeling of some sort because he thought he saw it try to change a little bit. So that makes it even more difficult because the person could be anybody in the room. So they go into the nightclub and look around a little bit, and then Obi-Wan says that he will go get a drink and let Anakin figure it out, which I thought was kind of funny. He's like, "You go do it.
You go figure it out. I'm going to get a drink." You already knew it.
Yeah.
Would you like some death sticks?
You don't need to show me any death sticks.
You need to go home and think about your life.
I'm going to go home and think about my life. Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was pretty funny too. And I don't know if you recognize that guy, but he's been in a lot of shows, small parts in a lot of shows too. He had a funny voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So blah blah blah. So they track this person down and start talking to
the
her.
person tried to kill Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And he cuts her gun hand off, or its gun hand off, and hauls it outside.
Right, hauls it outside, and they start talking to her, and apparently she's got more wounds than we really saw because she pretty much dies out there while they're talking to her.
No, it's because Jango Fett shoots a dart into her neck.
There you go.
Come on.
There you go. No, I'm trying to get you to participate.
Jeez.
I know what's going on.
Sitting there. Well, Mr. Obi-Wan's all calm and cool, collected, asking, and Annie yells at her, goes, "Who's that job?
Tell me who it is.
Go ahead."
Yeah. So,
don't get the neck.
Yeah, it gets a dart to the neck, and they barely see who it is. They see someone in a blue suit taking off in a quick and they assume it's a bounty hunter. So they question, like I said, fires off, and they return back to the temple, and Obi-Wan returns to the temple, and Anakin returns back to Padme's, suite or whatever. And Obi-Wan tries to research and find out something about this killer, um, and
Goes to that diner.
yeah, he goes to that diner, that
Diner.
Dax Diner or something like that.
Yeah,
Dak
yeah,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
Dak is the alien. He's got two sets of arms or something.
Yeah.
He's pulling up his pants while he's hugging him.
How good it is to see you.
Yeah, exactly. And we also see where Padme has decided that it's time. She should go back to the planet. She doesn't, want to get killed or anything like that. So she'd rather hide away from him on her planet where she knows, um,
Mhm.
the train and the people and such. Uh,
And the Jedi Council recommends that she goes standard packaging transit.
yeah, instead of special class or whatever.
Yeah.
Or her fancy ship.
Yeah.
Because it's
But
so
she don't have a
recognizable.
fancy ship no more. It's gone.
Yeah, it got blown up. And we also see some before that, Anakin is going on a rant about how Obi-Wan doesn't appreciate him and all that stuff. You remember that, where he's frustrated with how he's treating him and not letting him do the trials and all that stuff. And before she leaves, she tells Jar Jar Binks that he is supposed to assume the senatorial duties. Which
I did my best that I could possibly do to honor that. Just go. I know you have busy things to do. Go.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, just go.
Just go. Go be your Sith Lord self.
And so Anakin goes, and Obi-Wan is still researching some stuff, and he finds from Dax that the dart comes from Kamino. It's something that they developed there. So wherever he's trying to find this bounty hunter, it's going to probably be at Kamino. And he goes into the Jedi Archives, and it's the planet Kamino is missing from the archives. And he says, "How can that be?" And this is where we
this is where it's supposed to be.
This is where it's supposed to be. And then he goes in and talks to
the
younglings and Yoda for advice, and the younglings say that that it's been erased from the archives. So they
young's right, youngling it is.
Yeah, Yoda tells him that it's wherever the gravity is pulling.
Go to the center of gravity, and you will find the planet that you're looking for.
Exactly. Because even the star is missing. So the planet is missing, but the whole star system's missing from the map. Mm-hmm. So they can see the gravity from the star, but they can't see the star or anything around it. So yeah, he says to go there. Blah, blah, blah. He goes to the Kamino and finds it, and he talks to Prime Minister Lama Su, and he's like, "Army? What army? What?"
Those are some great looks. Like, yeah.
And he learns from Lama Su that Master Sifo Dyas requisitioned an army. And
isn't that who who Hal killed,
Yeah.
right? 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Palatine, yeah.
Actually, I think Dooku killed Sifo-Dyas.
Okay.
Yeah, so and this is where Obi-Wan kind of realizes that Sifo-Dyas was dead before that time. But apparently he ordered him and then was killed not long after the order was placed, so that like you said, Palpatine could kind of take over the process. And as we know, they got the chips and all that stuff and whatever. But they find out that the bounty hunter named Jango Fett is the template for the clones. And Obi-Wan goes to he gets a tour of the place, and then they go and see Jango Fett, and that's where we see Boba Fett for the first time as well.
Baby Bobo.
Bobo. Jango Fett doesn't have any idea who he's talking about. And he kind of questions him, and of course Obi-Wan's suspicious or whatever, but he doesn't really lead on. But Jango kind of thinks there's something going on too, so he tells Boba to pack his things and leaving and get it all on the ship. And
first he said him shut the door because his armor was showing.
Yeah, he did that while they were talking to Obi-Wan, so that Obi-Wan wouldn't see it, because he kind of got the idea that he was looking for him. And so they have he puts on his outfit and everything and goes out and starts to fight with Obi-Wan while he's trying to contact the council and tell him that he's found the bounty hunter. He's out there giving the speech to him, and Jango comes out there and right after he finishes, and kind of they have a big fight, kicking and shooting and throwing missiles at and this and that, and somehow Jango knocks Obi-Wan over the edge, and they're still tethered together, so they both go over. Jango has these claw things that come out of his arm, and he's able to catch himself on there on the side of the building, but Obi-Wan goes over and pulls him a little bit, and he struggles but releases the tethering cord, and Obi-Wan falls, and he's able to lasso a pole and catch himself on a pole, but it's underneath a walkway, so Jango can't see him. So Jango assumes that Obi-Wan is dead, and he packs up in his ship and leaves with Boba. And we see at the very last moment that Obi-Wan makes it up an elevator and onto the landing pad, and is able to throw a homing beacon on the ship as it's leaving. And Obi-Wan follows him to the planet Geonosis, where the Separatists are building a droid army and making all kinds of plans, blah blah blah. And Anakin and Padme have been spending time on the planet Naboo, frolicking in the fields, rolling around, telling each other when they first had sex and all that stuff. Flirting and this and that. And Anakin rides one of those weird animals and falls off and pretends to be hurt, and she comes over and they roll around in the grass and have a tender moment, and
they had a wonderful dinner,
and she has this low cut top dress thing on while they're talking after dinner. But yeah, there's a scene where they're eating lunch or something, and he Force pulls the pear or whatever that is over to him and
Supper.
cuts it for her, and then sends it back over.
Mhm.
That's not a very big supper. I would be disappointed in that, but whatever. And they talk about after dinner how it's impossible for them to, be together because she's a senator and he's a Jedi and blah blah blah. And
Then he does the man. Then he does the convincing talk and goes, "Oh, but we could keep it a secret."
yeah, exactly. We could keep it secret, and they go on with the idea that they're gonna not pursue it for now. Uh, but the next day, uh, Anakin's outside meditating, and Padme comes out, and she's like, "Oh," she walks away because she doesn't want to interrupt him, and he says, "Don't go." And they have a talk.
He's meditating because he woke up from a dream about his mother.
Exactly. He had a
go.
scary dream. And he says, "I have to go. I've got to go help my mother. She's in trouble."
I'm sorry, I must leave you, but I have to go.
Exactly.
I'll come
And
with you.
she says, "I'll come with you and help you," and because his problem is he can't leave her because he's been ordered by the council to watch her, and she's like, "Well, I'm gonna go help your mother. You can come with me if you'd like."
Yeah.
To protect me. So blah blah blah. Grave danger. We talked about that. Okay, so they land on Tatooine eventually, disobeying Obi-Wan's orders. He finds Watu, the flying guy that you think is kind of weird with the bugs buzzing around him and stuff. And they find out that he sold his mother to a moisture farmer named Klieg Lars. So they travel to the farm and talk to them a little bit. We find out that Klieg has been injured because his wife Shmi, which is Anakin's mother, was kidnapped by Tusken Raiders. And he tells a story about how 30 of them went out and tried to save her, and only 3 or 4 came back. And he was severely injured. He has one of his legs was cut off, and he's been injured in other places and stuff. And he said he can't go back until he heals. It's been a month since she was kidnapped, which is a long time.
And he said she's probably dead. Well, he knows he's dead.
She's probably dead. And right, we see a scene where Anakin is in his little room or whatever that he had set up with C3PO and all that stuff back in the day, and he has a little anger and breaks down and stuff, and he's like, "I've got to save her," and he decides that he's going to go do that. The Lars and whatever, they try to talk him out of it, and he goes out and thinks about it outside, and Padme follows him a little bit later and says, "I'm going to go," and he gets on a speeder and goes off. Goes off to little bike thing, goes off and to find him, and he finds the Tusken community. For some reason, he immediately opens up the tent that his mom's in, probably because he can sense her, I guess. I don't know, but I thought it was weird that the first one he opened up, she was there.
He listened at a couple, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, but she didn't make any noise.
Yeah.
She didn't make any noise, so she's tied up, in all weak and everything like that, and basically on the verge of death.
Mm-hmm.
and he unties her, and she basically dies in his arms.
Yeah.
You know, they have a couple tender moments, and she dies in his arms. Uh, and he says, "Don't leave me. You can't leave me. No." And this causes more rage in him. And after some anger builds up, he decides he's going to go kill everybody in the community. He kills all the men, women, children, and everything. Um, and we get a scene where Yoda senses the darkness of the Force, and that Anakin's done something terrible. We also hear a voice of Qui-Gon Jinn say, "Anakin, Anakin, no," which is kind of weird, because we haven't seen a Force ghost yet, but we hear him. So Anakin brings his body back to the homestead, and it's wrapped up in cloth and whatever, and they end up burying her and having a funeral, and he apologizes that he wasn't able to help her and all that stuff. Everybody says their little thing about how they're gonna miss her and all that, and Anakin and Padme basically get back on the ship, right, and leave.
Yeah.
And we
Well,
cut to
they
his.
they see what's his name message, Obi-Wan's message, the R2.
Yeah, that's right.
The signal
R2 comes up, and they're like, "What are you doing here, R2?" And R2 has a message from Obi-Wan on the ship. So they go back and listen to the message, and find out that Obi-Wan is on Geonosis and is probably in trouble, because his message gets cut off by, you see a bunch of droids come rolling up, and shooting and whatever, and the message cuts off. And they transmit that to the council. Council see it, and basically, I believe they don't. Do they give him permission to go? Don't they give him permission to go to Geonosis and help Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
Yeah, they give him permission. And we cut to a scene where Obi-Wan is listening to a meeting by Count Dooku and some leaders of the guild. They're talking about how they're gonna they still want to assassinate Queen, or the Padme Amidala, whatever her name is, Naboo, which is, they were able to defeat the droids and stuff. Blah blah blah. The council knows of Dooku's army, and Windu leads a battalion of Jedi to Geonosis. Unbeknownst to them, Anakin and Padme also make their way to rescue Obi-Wan. Meanwhile, Representative Binks calls for the Chancellor to have emergency powers, which they can, he can create an army if he needs to.
Yeah.
With those emergency powers. And we see on Geonosis, Count Dooku comes into a room where Obi-Wan's suspended.
Floating.
He's got some sort of supposedly those are some sort of shield that Jedi can't escape from, because they can do whatever, jumping around and whatever, and escape some certain things, but those are supposed to be Jedi proof restraints. Where were we? Dooku tries to persuade Kenobi to join him, and Kenobi's like, "No way, I'll never do that." And he tells him about Darth Sidious controlling the Senate, and Kenobi refuses to believe it, because that can't be true.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way we would know about that. And Anakin and Padme arrive to the planet. There's some fighting. They're in the factory and whatever, fighting with soldiers and other things. And Jango Fett ends up capturing them. We also see that this is the part where we see where Anakin gets his arm stamped by by uh, by the machine. Doesn't hurt his arm. He just can't get it out. He can't get loose. Padme gets in the big bucket that that they're pouring
the molten lava in pretty soon.
Yeah, and so we get a couple scenes where oh no, he's gonna get chopped in half, or oh no, she's gonna get fried by the stuff, and she gets rescued. We see R2D2 come in there, and she gets rescued from the pot. He knocks the pot off. Anakin's able to escape, and just as he's getting ready to get away, is when Jango Fett shows up and starts to attack him and captures him.
CP3O gets turned into he loses his head and puts it on a droid.
That's right.
Droid soldier.
Puts it on a droid.
Droid soldier's head gets put in his body.
Yeah, little comedy relief there where he's like, I seem to be missing my legs, or I can't see anything. What's going on? That kind of thing. Jango, captured by Jango, is sentenced to death. And he's tied up in the arena that we see where everybody's gathered. They're going to have a death sentence played out, and we also see a scene
where Roman type day thing.
Right, exactly. And Anakin and Padme are on a chariot type of thing and pulled out there as well, and we see a scene there where they oh, I love you so much. I love you.
I thought we weren't going to do that. He confuses Annie so much.
Yeah, I love you, but that's what women do, is they confuse us. But we weren't going to do that, and they kiss as they're kissing as they come out.
That's so sweet.
And they get tied up to the post next to Obi-Wan, and we hear a scene where Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, it's about time you got here," and they're talking away, and we see Padme in the background. She's got some sort of tool, and she's unlocking her locks, and she gets out and starts climbing up. And as they've come up with a plan, Anakin's like, "Well, what are we going to do about Padme?" And
I think Obi-Wan's on top of it.
I think she's on top of things. She's up on top of her post.
She's climbing up, and he turns like, "What? What? You throw me your thing, you crazy chick!"
Yeah, she's a strong woman, I guess. So, so we get a scene where Dooku and Gunray and a couple of them are watching out into the audience as they get tied up and untied, and the little animals come out, whatever you want to call them. There's a big animal that's a next to. Remember, we saw that on the Bad Batch, where they were in that field, and what's her name went out there, and this big next to. That's one of the animals that is there. And there's some sort of bull type of thing with a horn that's pretty tough. And then what's the other one? It's some sort of furry animal, right, with big teeth.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And that's the one that goes after Padme. I think Anakin's able to get out because he lets the bull break his chains when he hits the post. He ducks and puts his chains up there, and the bull hits the chains and breaks them. And Obi-Wan gets out, a different way by, pulling them apart or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think the big animal knocks over the post or something, and he gets loose. Anakin ends up riding the bull and trying to get a hold on it. He tames it and eventually has control of it, and he has Padme jump down from her perch on top of there. And there's some fighting going on. Obi-Wan's in trouble with the big next to stabbing and chomping and breaking and cutting him. Uh, there was a
Padme got
scene where,
pretty good gash on top of the pillar.
yeah, Padme got a gash and tore off half of her clothes, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but it was kind of weird that it only hurt during that time. She screamed pretty loud.
Yeah.
Then after that, she's jumping down, she's riding the thing, and she's not complaining about being hurt then.
She got to ride with her lover, Annie.
Yeah, that's it.
Why would you be so concerned to give him a kiss when you made it down on the animal? Let's get out of here.
That's right. And they pick up Obi-Wan also. He jumps on top of the bull, and the bull starts to attack the big next to animal. And we see them defeat that, and that's when we see some of the Jedi start to show up. We see Mace Windu comes out behind Count Dooku and hey, how you doing?
What's up? How's it going?
Kind of
You're under arrest.
Yeah, you're under arrest, and Jango was not going to let him do that, whatever. So that's when all the Jedi start coming out. All their sabers light up, and they have a big battle in the arena. A couple Jedi run by and hand Anakin and Obi-Wan some lightsabers. They use them to cut the rest of their chains off, and Obi-Wan has a confrontation with that big next to and finally kills it. He chops off a couple of its pinchers and then basically stabs it and kills it. And Windu has a fight with Jango, and they're fighting back and forth and struggling and whatever. Again, Jango's jetpack malfunctions, and they're starting to be overwhelmed. And then all of a sudden, they see some ships coming down, and Yoda's on one of them, and there's a bunch of troopers. They start to land and unload a bunch of clone army troopers, and we see several
surround them, and make a perimeter. You will.
That's right. And they go out, and then Dooku releases a bunch of the droid army. So they have clones and droids attacking each other, and over 160 Jedi get killed in the battle, which is quite a bit. And it actually lists a couple of them, which I don't recognize any of them.
Babies.
Yeah. Survived.
Up their metachlorine intake.
Exactly. Yeah, too much. Maybe drinking some more midichlorian energy drinks, right?
Yeah.
So they end up escaping the arena after a short battle, and Dooku and everybody runs off. So they end up escaping in their ships and start. There's a battle happening outside too. They're starting to attack all the the whatever ships that they have. They call them cruisers of some sort.
Star cruisers. They shoot them in the middle there, lower where the fuel is,
and then they blow up.
Boom.
And they do that, and they try to attack them anymore. And then we see, there's droid army on the ground, and we see the clones on the ground, and they're fighting back and forth, pew pew pew, and this and that, and we see Newt Gunray and a couple of the people retreat to his ship, and they escape while the clone army is gaining the upper hand on the droid army. And we see Hoggle the Lesser is what he's called, gives Count Dooku a little pod that's got the plans to the future Death Star on it.
Yeah.
And he entrusts it to Dooku, who says he's going to take it to his master on Coruscant. And he gets on a speeder bike and tries to escape. And Anakin and Obi-Wan track him down to a secret hangar where they engage in combat. But they are no match for Dooku because he has become very strong in the dark side. He's got a great lightsaber skills, and he's able to throw things at him, and we see some force lightning happening. We also see fighting and such. He knocks out Obi-Wan, and Anakin goes after him for a while. And Anakin actually gets his arm cut off from Dooku. And he's on the ground, wounded, and surprisingly, Yoda shows up, walking in, and we see a big battle between Yoda and Dooku, and Yoda is bouncing and crawling and jumping all over. They're throwing things at each other from the walls and the ceilings and this and that, and they get into the lightning too. And we see that Yoda has lightning ability too. And Dooku finally tries to knock down a pillar in the building that will land on top of Obi-Wan and Anakin, and this causes Yoda to stop the pillar from falling and falls further away. But during that time, Dooku ends up escaping on his ship and leaves. So Dooku escapes. And they're, we jump back to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, and Yoda are pondering Dooku's warning about Darth Sidious controlling the Senate. And this is where we get Yoda can't believe it. Neither does Windu or anyone else. And they agree to monitor the Senate. And we see Chancellor Palpatine and several senators, Bail Organa, overseeing the deployment of the clone forces. And then we get to our last scene in the movie, where Anakin and Padme are on Naboo because she's gone back to Naboo again, and since they rescued everybody and all that, so they're getting married, and it's a secret wedding where only a few people that are like guards of Padme and C3PO and R2D2 are witnessing the marriage. So that is when we see the credits roll. So what do you got to think about that?
Thinking it's a cool show.
It's a pretty good movie.
I like Dooku's sail ship. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you think the Attack of the Clones was better than Phantom Menace? Maybe.
They're all building to the third one.
Right. Exactly. Which a lot happens in the third one for sure.
Yeah.
So my question of the week is, who do you think deleted Kamino from the Jedi Archive maps?
Palatine.
but he's not a. He was never a Jedi, so only Jedi have access to the
Dooku.
archives. There you go. Maybe Dooku, right? Because he
Mhm.
was a Jedi and he's defected now.
Dooku.
Could be
Poo-poo.
Dooku.
Poo-poo Dooku.
And we do find out in this movie that Yoda is the one that trained Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
Dooku trained
Sidious.
Qui-Gon,
Qui-Gon, yeah, Qui-Gon.
and we know Qui-Gon trained Kenobi, and of course Kenobi's training Anakin.
I thought Yoda
Um,
trained Kenobi.
No, it was Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon. That's right, Qui-Gon, yeah.
Qui-Gon
right.
Jinn.
Yeah.
And he
But he
dies,
has a
and
certain set of
that's
skills.
right.
Brought another movie into this.
Yeah,
That's fun.
it's the next one.
That's
Yeah. So it could be Dooku, because my understanding is that when they took care of Sifo Dyas, which from what I know, Dooku killed Sifo Dyas when they found out what was going on, and tried to keep the clone army thing a secret from the Jedi, using their dark voodoo powers to hide this information. And Dooku was still a Jedi, so he was able to get into the archives and delete the Kamino stuff. While they hatched their plan to create chips and control and create a big war, which we see a lot of that in this movie. They are setting up different groups to attack, so that the war starts. And that's one of the scenes we see with Dooku meets up with Sidious, right? He's like, the war has begun, and Sidious is like, that's ahead of schedule. It's fine. We like it. Everything's going according to plan and such. So there's a lot that happens in this movie, building up to the next one that we see. So yeah, so I think it was Dooku too. I don't know anything specific saying that Dooku did it, but
could have done it though. That's the most obvious.
yeah, he had to have been him, as far as I'm
That's
concerned.
what he did before he left.
Mhm. Could be, maybe someone else like Sifo Dyas deleted it. I don't know. I doubt it, but anyway, you have anything else you want to say about this episode?
No.
Two worked out pretty good. So hopefully, as long as you're still available, we'll be able to watch episode 3 and review it next weekend.
Yeah.
And
I'll be 10 days out from my second eye surgery, so I should be good.
yeah. And the weekend after that would be New Hope.
Yeah.
And that gives us a weekend off right before the 27th, which is the following Friday. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Is that going to interfere with any of the surgeries?
Eye surgery's on the 17th, a Tuesday.
So on the 21st, you'll still be able to. No, that's the weekend we're skipping. So today's the 8th.
Coming weekend is our
Saturday is episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
So New Hope would be on the 21st, which is the weekend right before the 27th. So you could still do that. So the 14th would be the Revenge of the Sith movie.
Mm-hmm.
The 21st would be New Hope.
Yes.
And that's cool. So we'll do that. And hopefully, if everything works out, I've got the day off on the 27th. So we're going to do a live same room broadcast, let's say, instead of us being on video like this. We'll still be on video, but we'll be in the same room.
Yeah.
And I still have some things to work out on that too. I was hoping to work out this audio issue so we could use what I found out from the audio stuff for that too. So I've got a lot of homework to do before the 27th at least. I almost had it today. I had everything sounding perfect. And as soon as I started the meeting, everything started to freak out. And as you saw, I had to reboot my computer and all that stuff. So, and then it crashed your computer too, or your phone.
My phone just I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know either, but
I actually had a doggy touching the screen, so I don't know whether she did it or what. But anyway, alrighty.
it's time to go once again. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye now.
Bye. Bye.
Please.
Goodbye.
Later.